Hey, it's Sasha Evdokov, and welcome to BackstageIncome.com, where I share with you how money is made behind the scenes in your business and also your life. Now, in this week's episode, what I'd like to really tackle on is which product you should start with creating first, whether that's an informational product or actually a physical, tangible product if you're in the online business space. Now, there are a few different things to consider before you actually start creating your product. Now, one of the main things and most important things I think that you need to focus on is your customer, because remember, the product is all about the customer, and if they don't want it, you're better off saving your time and enjoying yourself on a vacation than spending your time and wasting it creating a product where nobody purchases it. Now, as we start digging deeper into evaluating informational products and actually physical products, I will tell you that typically the product that has less barrier to entries are the ones that are easiest to create, and it's the ones that get the snowball effect rolling for your business. So for example, if you're starting with creating an ebook, maybe some video content, or just writing blog articles, those are typically the easiest ways to start something or to get your product going. So for example, if you composed all the blog posts that you've written and created over the last year or two, you now have a PDF guide, or potentially you could turn this into a book. And this typically, an informational product, is a lot easier to start. There's less costs involved in terms of startup costs. There's a lot less time involved because you have to do less potential research, less manufacturing, figuring out how all the details and parts work together, figuring out all the patents and all these different things. There's probably less time involved in the big scheme of things, but there's less cost, less time, and you can also do it more than likely on your own. Whereas once you start getting into a physical product, such as building a TV set or a rocket ship, you probably need more than one person or yourself, because you potentially don't have the expertise to create and manufacture all the pieces. Now, for this exact reason, I always recommend that people typically start with an informational product first if they're in the online space or in the online business space. For example, if you start with an ebook, a podcast, or selling educational or informational content for access, this is typically the easiest route. So if you're starting to get a product and you want to create a product to offer to your customers, starting with an informational product is probably the better approach, because it'll allow you to grow things in the future, in which case you can design a bigger, better product later. But in order to get things going, in order to make things happen in your business, you have to start with the opportunities available to you. And that's typically things that have low barriers to entry or very little cost, something that's unique and different, but you can still get into and penetrate that market. So educational and informational content usually works out really well. Now, since an ebook is typically one of the easiest types of products to create in the online business space, I always recommend that people start with something like an ebook, or compressing a lot of videos together and creating, a video course or something to that effect. But typically, starting with an ebook is one of the easiest forms. It allows you to get some distribution right when you publish it on Amazon, and it gets your name out there. Now, after you have that ebook, you can go ahead and go to something like a physical book. Now, a physical book has more elements. There's manufacturing involved, and you have to design and develop things according to manufacturing specifics. You'll need to properly place the ISBN number. You need to properly design the cover. So there's more elements that go with a physical book. After creating your physical book, you may decide to take that product to that next level, in which case you may go ahead and actually audio record your book, and now you'll have an audio book. So you're constantly taking your product through multiple stages and cycles because of the different distributions available. Now, I know that not everybody can create an ebook, or that's not really their forte, or maybe that's not their business focus, because I don't really know exactly what business you're interested in, or maybe that just doesn't appeal to you. So for example, if you're interested in some other forms of business, focus on mental type of businesses, or businesses that require a little bit more resources into the mind or creativity and less about manufacturing, because probably if you're an online entrepreneur or a solopreneur or just a one-man business, then you're probably lacking in the manufacturing space. So if you can create something that requires very minimal manufacturing or very limited amount of resources that you don't have, then you can actually at least get some kind of product out there for lower costs. Now, one of those products that you can create that requires a little bit less manufacturing, but still a lot of creativity, in which case it can do really well, is something like a board game, like Settlers of Catan. Now, this board game has different pieces that still need to be manufactured, different cards and playing cards, and those things still need to be created, as well as, the dice pieces and other things that are included within the game. However, the majority of the game, or the selling points behind the game, is actually the way that it's played. So it's the creativity factor. Now, yes, it does require some manufacturing, but it's definitely not as extreme as creating like a phone or a digital device. So as you start ramping up from a digital product like an ebook all the way up to something like a physical product, like a machine or a car, there's always these different levels in between there. So you may have something like a phone on the higher end of a physical product range, because now the phone does so much more. Somewhere in the middle, you may get something like an iron or something physical, but still it's a simple product. Now, I wouldn't say it's as simple as something like a water bottle, but even something like this could be very difficult to create if you're just getting started in the online space and you're looking to sell, let's say, the most modern or newest type of iron if you're running a cooking blog or cooking show on YouTube. So even with this, it requires safety regulations. The plug has to be a certain way. There's a dial, there's different types of buttons, and they all have to be created, manufactured, thought of in terms of building and creating your physical good. So if you've been in the online space or you're just getting started in the online business, I highly recommend you start with the resources that you have available. It's like bootstrapping, pulling up your boots and using the resources that you have available. And typically, if you're limited on resources, start with something that's a little bit more educational or informational based, because your view is going to be different than someone else's view, and that would be your unique selling point. So starting with an ebook is a great way to get into the product space. After that, you can go to a physical book. Then you may turn your physical book into actually an audio book. And then from there on, you can create new products, bigger projects, as you start getting more familiar with the product development process. Because every product you create is going to be a little bit different, and you're going to run into some issues that you'll have to overcome. And it's just a stepping stone. It'll continue to grow you as, number one, a person, but also in your business, to take your products and your business to that next and better level. Thanks for joining me in this video lesson, and if you found it helpful and you want to see more great lessons like this one, then go ahead and click this link, and when you get there, you can browse the website and see some of the other mini courses that I have available. Now, you can also enter your name and email address when you're on that website, and that way I can send you some free video training, mini courses, and mini series as they are released. Now, if you want to continue hanging out on YouTube and just watch some of the other training that we have on our channel, then click one of the thumbnails right below this video and we'll continue learning together. Thanks again for joining me, and remember to do what you love, contribute to others, but most importantly, live life abundantly. I'll see you next time.